today's news includes just that. We've been talking about it in the Discord. Here's the Discord right beside me just here. This is the Rocky Outcrop Discord. Link to it in the description. One of the news articles today, posted by myself. This one was, let's make it a bit bigger on the screen here for you. I know it's a bit small because I've got my desktop application open here, but it's all about GameStop here having bought Bitcoin and they're hodling it. So it's good to see that GME are going to show us their diamond hands. The strategy here is typically to buy it and never sell it. And that's what we are going to be discussing in today's show. What is Bitcoin as a treasury? How does it even work? We have this website here beside me, all nice colors and everything, showing us the 211 big companies that are using Bitcoin as a treasury asset just now. 211 of these guys. We've got 3.37 million Bitcoins being held in treasuries by public companies here. And the thing is, with this massive purchase of Bitcoin that GameStop has done, welcome to the crypto family, GameStop at long last. I've been calling for it for 5 years at this point. Jeez. So welcome to the family. We have this news that of course that GameStop is finally going to be holding it, and they are the 15th biggest hodler of Bitcoin in the world now. Shocking. Shocking, really. We have a purchase of 4,710 Bitcoin. And so far, we don't know what price they were bought at. What we do know, though, is that there was a certain amount of money put to the side for doing just this activity of there was $1 billion set aside for using Bitcoin as a treasury asset. And what is that? What does it mean? So we're going to be discussing that in today's show. And there's a really good reason for why you would want to do this. And people who are big GameStop shareholders or just regular stock traders and investors might want to understand what the details are, why somebody would want to do that. Somebody who's been invested in crypto for a long time, seeing companies getting involved here, might be curious to know how it can benefit companies and what to look out for. So we'll be looking into how that actually works in today's show. Now, there's a reason for doing this, though, in the first place, as opposed to, outside of just simply believing that Bitcoin is going to go up in price, just like as a kind of bullish thesis. There are reasons for doing this, and we will also cover that just now, just real quick, because there's this big, beautiful bill that Donald Trump has managed to get through Congress with just one vote. So it was really close. It was closer than any recent Super Bowl final has been. And it got through, and now we're going to see if the impact on the economy involves an increase in the deficit, partly. Now, this is something that Elon Musk criticized the bill about, because, of course, he's working at Doge, the department in the government, not the crypto coin. Get back at working at crypto coin, though, is what I say. I've been saying that to Elon Musk for ages. Get back to working at the real Doge. Woof, woof. Anyhow, he's been working there to try and reduce the bill, and those savings are going to maybe be wiped out with some of this impact of the big, beautiful bill. So that maybe also means a little bit the old inflation. And when Bitcoin was set up back in 2008 or so, right, they were working as a way to combat inflation. Now, not just inflation in terms of the price of eggs has gone up because no chickens are laying eggs, but don't worry, the chickens will lay more eggs next month and the price will go back down type of inflation. Type of inflation we're talking about here is the monetary supply expansion type of inflation. You know, when there were just however many dollars in the past, and next year there's more dollars, more dollars, more dollars. This big beautiful bill has still got to make it through Senate, and the deadline for that I think is around about July 14th, is it not? Or July the 4th, or something around there, because that's right whenever there is the debt ceiling kind of deadlines coming up. So there's a big old imperative there at the backstop to kind of help push that deal over the line. It's going to be increasing the amount of dollars that exist. And the debt ceiling chat does increases the amount of dollars that exist every year anyway. So what we had was a massive financial crisis. And that led to the creation of Bitcoin as a hedge against this type of inflation. So thank you to Satoshi for doing that for us and giving us that amazing asset, the first ever digital cryptographic crypto provable finite thing on Earth that has ever existed, which is kind of weird because people thought that gold and stuff like that was like finite. All these resources are finite. But the truth is that keep finding more gold all the time. The first ever truly finite resource, apart from you yourself, the viewer, because you're unique and wonderful in every way. Hit that like button. And but after that, the only other unique thing was Bitcoin, first to invent it, and it's deflationary as an asset. So this is what these guys get the benefit to do is whenever you see something like a big, beautiful bill. Big bill, big beautiful bill. And you think, oh, there's maybe some inflation on the horizon. This is one of the main reasons, perhaps, that you would be looking into getting Bitcoin as a treasury asset. Now, all the crypto people know that. We've been banging on about the reasons why people should have Bitcoin as part of their treasury for a long time. There's a poll in the chat right now, which is asking you, do you hodl Bitcoin in your treasury? And we know that GameStop does now. So let's just kind of cover some of these key headlines. And we've got it all written out for you in the Discord, like I was saying, it's written in the Discord. You can see here, I've just made the article full screen for people. Just bring up so you can see it. Bitcoin. Now, thanks so much for becoming a member there, Kickass Man, or celebrating your membership, whatever that was. At long last, the amount of Bitcoin purchased has been published at 4,710, but we do not get to know the exact price. We may never actually even hear the exact price. Now, this is something people might find surprising as we get into this discussion about exactly how does Bitcoin as a treasury asset actually work. So we know that Bitcoin has been bought by GameStop. We know that GameStop has bought Bitcoin, and many other companies have too, such as MicroStrategy, and they're one of the leaders at this whole idea about buying Bitcoin as a treasury for your company. And they go around telling people how to do it. So what exactly are the details about this? For instance, a company buys Bitcoin. One question that people might have is, do we get to know what price it was? Do we actually get to know that? The answer to that is no. No, we didn't get to know that, which is really a surprise for most people. Now, there are things that companies are obliged to tell us. They have to report their earnings, and they do that. It includes a balance sheet. It'll have itemized things on there, and it'll tell you during that a price that those assets are worth. Because there's two things about Bitcoin which are asymmetric, and this is quite an interesting detail here. I really hope I spelt that right. Asymmetric. Let me know in the chat box if that's spelled incorrectly. There's two asymmetric things about Bitcoin as a treasury asset if you're a company holding it, which are worth knowing. One of them is a negative one, which is to do with the accounting. And in fact, it's such a kind of unusual thing that it actually makes Bitcoin kind of CEOs into a bit of a boys' club, a cool club to be in. And you can have these elements in your accounting and your reports that you put out there, which are actually cool and make you look like a long-term OG hodler of Bitcoin. Now, that's the upside to this thing, but there's a downside, which is when you report your assets and what they're worth, which creates the book value of the company, you have to say the lowest price that that lot of Bitcoin that you bought has been valued at since the time that you bought it when you're reporting this. Just let that sink in for a second. When you tell people the value of your company, hey, we're GameStop, we've got all this stuff that's worth loads of money, like shops and stock. We also have a big bank balance worth billions of dollars. What's our company worth? The person says, well, it's this much dollars, this much assets, that's how much you're worth. With Bitcoin, it's different. It's very different. It gets reported at the lowest price it has been since you bought it. Had $1 million worth of Bitcoin and the price of Bitcoin dropped by half, then on your book value, you have $500,000. And that is the price it will be. It can never go up on your book value. That's right. This is shocking. Shocking. It can never go up on your book value. It's always the lowest price, which is an asymmetric dimension in accounting. It actually comes across as a negative thing for kind of the old-fashioned folks, because you go to raise money or to, say you were having an IPO and they had to value you and they looked at your assets. They'd be treating Bitcoin like a sports car, like a Ferrari or something, or like a rare painting, like the Mona Lisa, or an original vinyl copy of the first ever Beatles single, which is worth millions of dollars, or a 1942 bronze penny, which was minted in the United States whenever they stopped using copper to preserve it for the World War, and a few rare bronze pennies were minted. Shout out to Lisa in the Discord who shared that tidbit in one of the other news articles there. Anyhow, these things are valuable. However, they're not like cash and cash equivalents, apparently, because they're treated from an accounting purpose like an asset with a forever hold purpose, which can only be valued at the lowest price that it's ever been sold at since you bought it, until such times as you yourself sell it and realize the price that it's worth, which creates a gap in your accounts where the old-fashioned book person who's looking at the book value of your accounts will value your company lower, and the other who's looking at the assets that you hold and really valuing them themselves would value it higher. If it was a sports car, it'd be very difficult because it might be debatable what that's worth. When it comes to this asset, it's actually instantaneous, and you can dispose of it and get access to it quicker than you could with some treasuries in terms of getting that cash. So it actually really is a cash equivalent. It's a really interesting dynamic exists right now in accounting. In 100 years' time, this thing, which is a bit odd, isn't going to exist. If you're in El Salvador right now, where Bitcoin is legal tender, this accounting dynamic wouldn't exist. But the way that it works right now in standard US accounting practices using non-GAAP assets reporting such as this, non-standard, generally accepted accounting practices for Bitcoin. I know it's intense and complicated, yet it's always reported at the lowest value. Always. Okay. That's the negative one. The positive one is this asymmetric opportunity. You know, it's the opportunity that not only does it have this kind of deflationary aspect to hedge against the inflation risk from the US dollar, has this upside potential which could be huge. And this brings us on to the kind of the next question of going back to the very start again. Now that we understand the accounting side of it, which is that the accounts are always at the lowest value. That's the bearish side. The bullish side, of course, is the opportunity, which is huge. It's just to sum it up in one word. And that kind of brings us back to the initial question again. So how will we know, and how will we know how much they spent on it? We won't, right? We won't. But we do know a couple of things, right? We know that they had $1 billion to spend. We know the current price of Bitcoin, so the max that it could have been at the time that it was reported at, would have been that the max that they spent so far equals 513 million. That was if they bought it at the same price as what the price was when they made the announcement that they had already bought it. And we can assume that it's probably lower because we do know a range of prices that Bitcoin has been since they approved that 1 billion. So the third thing that we know here, going back to point number one, is that since they announced that they were going to spend $1 billion on it, what have the prices been? What's the range? And the lows have been 70k up to highs of around 111k. Okay, so they could have bought it at any price in between them. Now they would always have to report it at the lowest price it's been since they bought it. So if they bought it when they first announced that they were going to, it means that they would have bought it at about 107,000 if they'd done it on the day that they said they would. Then in the following time, the prices then dropped down to $72,500. Okay. Right. And then they went back up to 110. So if they bought it when they said that they were going to at some point, and they didn't say that we're going to buy it today, they said at some point we will buy this. And they didn't say if they were or they had or they hadn't. If they bought it back then they'll have to report the lowest price it's been since. But if they bought it after the prices started coming back up, then we'll see a price which is higher than 72k. And that will give us a pretty strong indication of where they actually bought it at, if it's higher than the lowest price, because we know the rules. Okay, just to summarize here, right? Just to summarize here, because this is exclusive, and people probably don't understand, is that legally there is no way to know how much BTC, how much GME's Bitcoin cost. There's no way to know. However, I've told us the roadmap where we can figure it out by figuring out when they said that they were going to buy it. So they made the announcement here. Then we know that there was a max and a min price. And we also know how much they budgeted. And when the earnings come out, we'll be able to work out an approximate price anyway. And that will be for this lot of Bitcoin. The first one will always be very easy, because in the first one they'll say, in their first report, they'll say, we own 4,710 Bitcoin and they cost a price of whatever. And we'll be able to, they'll probably tell us that, right? And Michael Saylor, if he's an example to Ryan Cohen, who's the CEO of GameStop, Michael Saylor, the CEO of MicroStrategy, who's the most famous one for telling people how to do this and the biggest Bitcoin holder and so on. He always tells people how much they paid, right? And it's because they do this for investor transparency. So that's why they do that, and they don't have to. There's no legal requirement for it. So we can always kind of figure out based on how much money they've got left if we kind of look at their thing, but we'll not be able to see how much specifically is left is allocated to buying Bitcoin when they publish their accounts, because they'll not demarcate that alone. But we will be able to see how much they've got in cash and how much they've got in treasuries, and be able to kind of come up with some idea, make a range. But we'll also be able to tell the minimum price, because the minimum price that it's been since you bought it is what you have to tell people in your accounts that that's what it was worth. So if they bought it at any part of this edge of the incline in the price chart, then the minimum price there would be the price that they bought it at, because afterwards it went higher. But if they bought it at any point here, then the minimum price will be the lowest price. And that's a really good indication for us in terms of getting a handle on what their strategy was. It's highly unlikely that they bought it at the very lowest price, just in terms of the sort of what we can tell from the sort of the record they've got in terms of buying and selling stocks and so on, that they probably aren't using technical analysis to buy it, and they probably outsourced that job, right? Cool. Anyway, don't want to make everybody get too too overwhelmed with like this data talking about GameStop. I think that's kind of like the primary kind of mechanics and understanding of what GameStop's done to understand, and how we can understand the price and answer that question. It's the closest that we can get. We've got all the information there. There's certain things that they can tell us that you'd expect, such as an 8K, but the 8K only tells you how many, right? Not how much. And one of the reasons why this is a whole conversation topic at all, of course, right, is because of the chat that we had here in this news thread. When it came along and we had one of the members of the community said here, be good to understand the usual disclosure rules and timing from other public listed companies outside of Master and Tesla, just to kind of get an idea about how this whole thing worked. And there is the answer. That's the best answer that's available on the internet about that, because you'd have to be speaking to Michael Saylor directly to find out anything more. Okay, cool. So we've got more to talk about with regards to that. There's little things that I think we'll share with people with regards to how this whole thing works, but that is Bitcoin as a treasury asset. The asymmetric risk aspect for the upside potential, of course, is huge, which is why we had a goal in the chat today to see if we could do some technical analysis. And if we reach that goal, we'll be looking at technical analysis for Bitcoin. It's pretty hype, obviously, at the minute. And we're going to set a new goal. We're going to set a new goal, actually, right now. So, cool. What will the new goal be for? Any ideas, people? We take a look at GME TA, right? So that's a big part of the story today. Yeah, great, cool. If we exceed the goal, we could also take a look at live person, perhaps. Float that idea out there, see how quickly we get to it. If we get to it right away, there will be no need to add further incentive. Pardon? Yeah, so here's the Discord, and I want to take a little run through the Discord here for people so that you can, break the ice, get involved, understand how to use the thing, because a lot of people get overwhelmed. Now, if you're a basic member of the Discord, which you can join for free, you'll not see all of these rooms that are right here. These rooms are visible to me because I have full access. And you can get full access to through my Patreon. And what we will do here is take a look at some of those rooms anyway, just so you can get an idea for what's going on right now. We've made a few changes recently as well. So a bit of fun to explore here for people even who are very familiar with the Discord. First place I'll jump over to, I think, will be the news channel, just because that's where we started the show here. Just to remind people about the quality that you've got access to. When you click on a forum channel like this, by the way, you'll see all these cool channels. They're called threads, got rooms, got chat rooms. I like chat rooms if you used the internet in the year 2000. And this is a news article. Each one of these is a news article, but there'll be different threads in different rooms, right? And you can sort and view these. Recently active is how I've got it sorted just there, but if I do it by date, you can look back, and these are the most recent news articles. Here's this one about Trump's 3 billion crypto raise. For more crypto news, when you open one up, it can go half screen like this. If you're on desktop, if you're on the phone, it just opens up fully. You can close that by hitting the X at the top, or you can make it full screen by hitting the button at the very top of the screen, and then it's not cluttering. It's not half and half. Anyway, that's the news page, and that's what a forum channel works like. And if we just take a jump in here, you can see if this is available to all members, all the free members and everything. Here's a chat about technical analysis, plenty of chat in there today. And we can just close that and show you, like, you know, we've got a bunch of chat in there about crypto and shares and stocks and all that. Now there's the equivalent room over there in the premium side where we've got a lot of good discussions all the time. I'll not go into too much detail there. We've also opened up a couple of new rooms recently, like this one where we're discussing Bitcoin. It's crypto picks, and they've got Bitcoin, Ethereum, doing polls in there at the minute, and discussing various crypto coins as they come up. The conversations will be easier to find. So that's the helpful tip for experienced members who are looking for easier to find conversations. Same thing here with the stock picks. I'll just showcase something that Jamie's done, for instance, recently here, in terms of just some of the excellent information. I'll not give, you know, too much of a view to it, but you can see here, this is an equity report, and you can see the vast amount of detail which has gone in here. So let's just take a look here. This is something I added to it, where I explained what CUDA is, because there's mentions of it in here, some strengths and weaknesses and so on. So that's the sort of thing that you can see in there. It's really, really, really great, top value, and of course tons and tons of technical analysis all over the shop as well. Conversation happening in commodities, helping one of these traders learn about how to trade gold better there, and they made profit. Take profit one was hit. Well done to him. It's nice to have been a part of that trade for him. And if we take a look at something else here, for example, conversation that a lot of people from GameStop world, for example, would like to know about, and equally crypto traders who often find that their stops get hit when they put trades on, and wonder, do the market makers get access to my stops? Do they know where that is? Do they chase after them? Might want to know a little bit more about what market makers do. And I created this thread yesterday to explain that in great detail to people. Great educational resources everywhere. So like, that's just a little dive into that. I'll bring up the school area, not go into too much detail just there. Opened up a new thread today though, for example. So this is talking with people in the school who've bought the course about chart patterns, and suggesting, you know, that people do more of that, and we'll see that happen. That's just started today, and there's more from the school, but I'll not show you all that. And then there is, of course, the community side of things. You've got your general chat room open to everybody. Got this premium chat room. I'll not spill the tea on that though, where the premium people talk, because it's private. That's the whole part of the thing, so that you don't want everyone in the public seeing everything you're saying. There's the public one though. And then we've got a memes channel, you know, as you'd expect. We've got these rooms in lifestyle where you can talk about science. For instance, I'm Not a Cat posts great articles in there all the time. We place to chill out and put meditative stuff, you know, pictures of food, all that crack, the usual that you want to see. And we've also got a whole section to talk about like TV shows and stuff. Wheel of Time got cancelled, guys. Got cancelled. Wheel of Time's cancelled. Well, you know, it's awoken from the dream, as the Aiel would say about the Wheel of Time. Blech! Stabbed it with a spear. You're cancelled. And it woke from the dream. Brilliant. It's actually good. It's actually a good thing. That's what I've decided. Anyway, there's plenty of chat about entertainment in there. So I thought, there we go, right? That's cool. That's the community. It's really, really hip happening place. Hip happening place. What are some quick tips that I can give people? because it really does just work like a WhatsApp, but with lots of rooms down the left.
The pinned
So,
posts and the equity reports have got all the latest videos.
oh, there's a tip there from Jamie coming in the background. He's just saying to me that the pinned posts inside the equity reports link to the recent videos on that topic. So that's pretty neat. So if you were to go and check the pinned posts, right, and one way to do that if you're on desktop is you'd hit pinned messages up there. Oh, this one needs to be pinned, right? No, that's the NVIDIA one's not being pinned. So I'm just going to pin this post up here, and it'll link to the, here's this one, and it'll link to the recent videos on it, right? So then if you were to go into this room and hit pinned messages, you'd see that. Okay, this is how the Discord works. It's pretty cool. So if you want to do stuff as well, you can go, you can type, and of course you can say I am bold, and you can highlight that on your computer, hit Command B, it makes it bold, or you can use Markdown, which would be asterisk, 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 asterisk at the end of the word, stuff like that. I don't know if you can actually see that, but I'll just post that at the bottom there. Look, I am bold, I am bold. Get in the Discord, and if you don't know how to use something properly, you can ask inside General, right, which is available to you, and you can see the message history there from the day one that you join. If you're a brand new member and you want to look at the history elsewhere, and such, like take part in, for instance, the live person room here, right, and you wanted to see all this history, you wouldn't be able to, because you're a brand new member. But if you were to just spend 20 minutes posting, you'd get the experience points level up to see it. We do that to prevent too many spammers coming in and wrecking the place. So I've been scrolling for here for quite a while, and we'll just see how far back this is. That's me having gone back 5 days of posts, right? If you've got an issue, as I said, actually, I was trying to say there, if you've got actual proper need to resolve something, you come in here, open up a help ticket, and I'll solve it for you same day, right? Same day typically gets solved, and then you can always shout to one of the mods if there's a spammer or some obnoxious behavior happening. Easy, great stuff, great community. Back to the chat. Back to the chat. We did want to do some technical analysis actually before we give up on this. Look at all those stupid rubbish news sites that post crap news written by idiots when you could be reading the news inside the Discord. Don't know who reads regular news these days when the Discord news is so good. Right, so we wanted to talk about a couple of things here. For instance, we wanted to talk about the technical analysis on Bitcoin. We did make it to the first goal, which was to do a bit of technical analysis. So we're going to do that on Bitcoin. This is the daily, or the 15-minute time frame. 15-minute time frame. This is the daily time frame. We've been talking about these volatility bands for quite a while. One of the things that I kind of wanted to point out to people with regards to the technical analysis here, I don't want to overload people's screens too much, is that I spoke about this last week. I'm more concerned with the horizontals at these volatility bands right now in terms of establishing market structure, right? Market structure, highs, lows, higher lows. If the price can stay above the previous higher highs along the way, very happy. If it needs to go down and test previous higher lows, very happy. If it breaks those, then I get quite distressed. The volatility at this band in the background, these diagonal, upper sloping diagonal lines, is going to be up and down, right? Taken out this area just now. Why? Because this is at all-time highs, right? At all-time highs. That's why this is not going to be the perfectest of systems, like it has been, for instance, the whole way since April, perfect, and then into May, perfect, right? At this point here, at the all-time high point, wanted to update people on the technical analysis, right? This is the chat. So where are we going to do this? Well, you could say, one thing that you could say about this is that I could draw a new set of volatility bands covering up this area and really kind of make a sort of some sort of structural analysis of this upward trend. And I could use trend lines above and below, could draw an upward sloping channel around it, could do whatever I wanted to. But let's do things a little bit of the old school kind of basic way today here. because what I wanted to do was to look at this chunk of price action and acknowledge something. This is when it was breaking the prior all-time high, which was 100 and whatever it was, 107,000 or so at the time, where the prices are now. So how about we go back in time to places we've not been in so long, and take a look at this area here, but not there. I have to go even further back, but over here. Because what is this back here in 2020 of November 2020? The prices were rising up on Bitcoin. It was a hectic year, hectic year. COVID had come in. You were scared even to say the word COVID on YouTube in case you got banned because you were talking about disease. The whole world had gone crazy. And Bitcoin was going up towards 20 grand. And it retraced back down to 16, which is quite a big chunk to go. And then up to 20 grand again, and back down to 17,000, and then up through 20 grand. And why is that important? Why is that important? Well, if you've not been trading Bitcoin or crypto for very long, you won't know that the previous high to then, back 2 years earlier, was at those prices, where price had pushed all the way up towards 20,000. In some exchanges it went above it, some exchanges it didn't quite, and then it pulled back down, had a blow off top, and then 2 years of bearishness ensued. Eventually the prices made it back up towards their highs again, and that was where we joined the price. In the November of COVID, everything was going crazy in the world. You stopped wanting to take change off of people in shops, or they stopped wanting to take your money. You're standing in a shop with £5 and 25 pence in your hand, trying to buy some eggs and some milk, and the shopkeeper's like, I want to sell you the eggs and the milk, but you need to have contactless payment on your card because I can't take your cash off you because I don't want to get your diseases from your money. And nowadays we're all just licking pennies, like just licking them. This world, it was mad for a while back then. So we pushed up and we came back down to this area. Why am I pointing that out? Well, because actually, if we take a kind of look at the way that the price was moving here, let's just kind of take a second, take a breather to take a look at the way that prices were moving up. We'll just draw like a line, kind of following it up here, just moving up. Wow, super parabolic. Had this kind of area where we went through the prior all-time highs, right, and then we pushed on up, and the things that we were looking for in this period of time, like this here, were of course bull flags and so on along the way, and that's how that went. So is there any lessons that we can get for when price had a run up which had this kind of momentum look to it? See all this up here, this momentum up here. I've just drawn squiggles around like I'm salad fingers. Awful. That momentum that went up there, is there anything familiar about it, and are there any lessons to take, and can we look at that on the current time frame and see anything that's in any way similar to it? Now this isn't me looking at fractals, yada yada yada. What I'm talking about here are the dynamics that exist when you come back up to your prior all-time high and you're wondering how has price approached that zone, what was the momentum like going up to it. Is there some inflection and resistance at the current area? Is that to be expected or not? And what would you be looking out for next in a typical situation? And as you can see here, there was this nice kind of momentous move up towards the top side. We've got to the all-time highs. Prices have moved up to things like 112, come back down to 106. Now that's a little bit bigger than when prices moved to 20 and then back down to 16 in terms of absolute value, but it's a lot smaller in terms of percentages. The equivalent thing would be going all the way back down to 80 or so. In fact, the equivalent thing is kind of like what happened here on a bigger scale. But markets themselves are fractal, and zooming out you can see a bigger picture there. I don't want to overwhelm people though. The story, as I said, for people just managing their trades right now on Bitcoin, is that these volatility bands in the background, there's going to be some volatility here. Why? We're at all-time highs. That's a simple story, the simple takeaway. The kind of the complex technical analysis story kicks in when you're asking questions about, are we pushing past? Have we got momentum? What does that look like on charts? How do you use the RSI properly? If you want to know this on a level that will leave you kind of feeling professional, trading very well because you're serious about becoming a personal lifestyle full-time trader, we have a course that you can do that will bring you up to speed fast. It's very, very good. If you take that course, by the way, reach out to me. I'll hook you up with that school side Discord membership we looked at earlier on. Cool. But you can also learn by being a part of the community, taking part of that free opportunity, the low hanging fruit there, and reach out and send me a message and say, hello, I wanted to know more about how you're looking at momentum at these highs. And you can do that. Make that your first message when you join the Discord, and I'll reply to you with just as if you were a long lost friend, right? But this is what I'm looking at. If we see little things along the way, such as bearish divergence, I could possibly take that as a confirmation that we're actually in a bull trend at the minute. If we see that, I would be looking out for things like hidden bullish divergence on lows to try and keep an eye out for that momentum. But if we fail and break down, first off, market structure, looking for a move back down towards 102,000, breaking the 100k level is a psychological round number. It's a little bit like taking your foot off the gas as you're approaching the lights, moving it to neutral, and just waiting to see if you need to slide back out of neutral and re-engage the the gas pedal, or if you're just going to let the car kind of roll to a stop at the lights. It's an experience we've all had. Well, it's very similar to that. So what's the state of that goal? Did we make it to the goal? If we exceed the goal, then we possibly take a look at some other stuff like LPSN. If we don't, then we've already had a great show already. So we have got a couple of things that I wanted to cover with regards to this Bitcoin as a treasury, right? Because it's such an amazing topic, because it's transforming the way that businesses are operating right now. It's quite incredible the way that this thing that's only been invented like 15 years ago everybody thought was kind of crazy for the first 10 to 15 years of its life, is now attracting in billions and billions and billions of dollars of investment from serious publicly listed companies. And they're in part doing it as a way to actually take advantage of an asymmetric risk opportunity to make loads of money. Obviously, hedging against inflation is important, especially if you're kind of, riding with Trump right now. We know that Trump is possibly doing a $3 billion raise for crypto, something that we're talking about here in the news channel, for instance. We know that there's this $3 billion raise theory, and we break it down in great detail, so it's well worth a read that. But we also know that it's not just that he's into crypto, but that there's the potential for inflation is always resting just around the corner, and that these guys are speaking about policy and what's coming up, big beautiful bill, all that stuff. So then they're moving into this for lots of reasons. So we've already covered a few things, like 2 companies have to disclose, and the picture is basically no. We've also discovered a couple of neat dynamics about that regarding the lowest price it's been and how you have to report that, how that'll give us insight into what GameStop spent, potentially, maybe even tell us when they bought in. Might be able to figure a couple of things out from that, which will never be reported to us otherwise. Will probably never be, unless it's a voluntary thing, you see. So they don't have to, so it'll probably never happen. We've also got a lot of stuff like there's a cool club, right? There's a cool club. This is one of the things I wanted to talk about. Because of this, because you always have to put in, for every lot, you have to put in the lowest price. This is kind of fun, right? Every lot that you buy has to be at the lowest price. So GameStop will have its kind of, let's say, May 2025 lot of Bitcoin, and it will be priced at the lowest price it's been since they bought it on their books. And that's that lot. That lot will always be priced at the lowest price that lot has ever been at. Now, we also know that markets can move like this, and then at times never ever ever return down there. That can happen. So it's, in theory, Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy put a lot of their Bitcoin in there at $36,000, And theoretically, the prices don't go back down there ever again. And that would mean that he has lots on his books which are at that price and will always be at that price, right? Even though he has another lot, right? Lot 2. And they were bought at 111k. They'll have two different lots, two different prices, right? So what's this? What is this like? What's it like? Because this may never ever go back down there again. It's a collector's card, isn't it? It's a billionaire company collector card. So whatever price that GameStop bought theirs at, right? If it whatever it is, whatever the lowest number it comes in at, may become at some point in the future a price that never goes back to again. For instance, if you bought Bitcoin at $800 and you had it on your books, lot 1, first ever Bitcoin purchase, 2016, $800. Lot 2, $1,000. Lot 3, 10,000. Lot 4, 30. Lot 5, 100,000. And the prices never drop back down. You've got the coolest ever accounting book for crypto CEO degens. Big shout out to all them. And it's the best NFT that you can get. That's super cool. I think that's something. I think that this is the inside conversation, the news behind the news part about like when Michael Saylor gets on the phone and says, "Well, Ryan, I see you finally did it. I've been telling you for ages, just like that Rocky Outcrop guy on the internet. Me and Rocky have been telling you for ages to spend $1 billion on Bitcoin. You've only spent $500 million. So we're waiting to see what lot 2 gets priced at. But at least you've got lot 1 on the books, and it's coming in at that price. I have a lot from back at 36 grand, so that's a hell of a lot cooler, and so on, right? That's cool. So and that's built into the accounting system. So until such times as that changes, they've got this amazing kind of little, like an ordinal record that Sats uses on the Bitcoin blockchain. If you know what you're talking about, which you might not do, in which case, just get involved in crypto. It can teach you a lot about crypto. It can teach you a lot about a lot of stuff. Know a lot. Anyway, right. So the other thing that we want to talk about. So there's that cool thing. Who's in the club, right? Who's in the club? The Bitcoin Cool Club. So far, who is in the club? Who is in the club? So we all know Michael. He's not a real sailor, but he does have super yachts. So I guess they operate under motor power. So that's why he spells his name Sailor. So we have Michael Saylor. He doesn't have a peg leg or anything, man. He's totally a fake sailor. He wears normal shoes, not those thin sole things. We've got Jack Dorsey. And this could be a poll, like who of them has got the coolest accounting record, right? Which one of them has got the best number? And we know which one's got the most Bitcoin. Well, you probably know, but you don't know who's got the lowest number. Who else is on this list? This is a list. This is a phone call that you could have, where it's like, I just looked at your accounts, by the way, man. Bitcoin ain't ever going back down to $800 again. Ain't ever go. I'm the best billionaire. The next other one is Elon Musk. So this is a good it's a good list here. I just got it wrong, right? Sailor is how you spell real sailors. So, I'm so sorry, Michael. I did not mean to get your name wrong. It was a Freudian slip. He is not a real sailor, right? Get it right. He's not a real sailor. He's an Saylor, right? Okay. Anyway, cool club. Add in the comments below this video to that cool club that, of course, Sir Ryan of slightly gay-looking puppies, Cohen, has just joined. Well done, Ryan. You're a real man now. Yes, you are, sir. Ryan Cohen. in the Bitcoin club at last. Cool guy. Okay, so there's another couple of things I want to talk about here. We've got the reputation game. I wanted to talk about that. It's in my notes. How it's reported. I've mostly covered that. Is the book at value an average? Covered that already. It's not an average, by the way, folks. It's reported in individual lots, so you always get the cool thing. This is. I'll write it out so you can see. Book value is not an average. Buy Bitcoin as soon as possible, Mr. CEO of theoretical company, because your book value thing is reported in lots. And if you wanted to have one on there, it was like, I bought this lot of Bitcoin back at $1,000. It will always be reported that way, right? Until you choose to sell it, which you will never choose to do because you bought it for $1,000 and it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you see, that's really freaking mega cool. Conversation that Bitcoin billionaires are having behind the scenes that you didn't know was happening, which I'm bringing to you. Exclusive info, right? We've covered everything we want to cover over there. Let's see if I missed anything. There's a cool donation in the chat just there, $49.99. Thanks to you and Jamie. That's awesome. Let's get the results in on this poll, if I can. Hopefully that is going ahead and closing that poll, or not. Is it? Let's just see. Go ahead and close the poll. Did I get Streamlabs ones? LPSN, please. LPSN. You know what, Jay Hunter? Just because you asked, I'm going to do a bit of LPSN technical analysis. We've got about 10 minutes, 9 minutes left on the show here. Plenty of time to cover the stocks we said that we would cover in our chitter chatter. I'll check and see. Yeah, no donations jumping out. Oh, wait a minute. We did get one from Lisa who wanted to take a look at LPSN, please. Okay, let's do this then. Because the people are prepped, they're primed, they're ready, they're excited about the upcoming, imminent analysis on our best friends, LPSN and GameStop. We're starting off with GameStop, right? Because that was the thing that we're starting off. We'll end the show on a BANG, saying it, spelling it out there, so that your kids don't hear any of the dirty words, like bang. Right, or let's go for it. GameStop. This is the one that has had like a massive drop here today. Ticker GME. It's it's worth acknowledging. Okay, massive drop here. What's the problem, Rocky? Okay, so we had the simple thing I explained in my short today. Right, get this. When there's a rumor about something, like Ryan Cohen says, we're going to buy $1 billion worth of Bitcoin at some point in the next few months. And then the price of Bitcoin drops down and goes to what looks like a low and then rises back up to an all-time high. And you know that some point in the last few months, your God has decided to buy Bitcoin, possibly at $75,000. The price goes up, right? And then you're like, yes, it's behind the scenes. We're going to find out one day that they're raking it in with Bitcoin. Whatever the company was valued at then, it's worth 20 billion times more. Then the news comes back out, right? That they bought $500 million worth, not a full billion worth. So you're like, damn, that rumor that I thought where they're going to buy $1 billion turned out to be half of that at most. Because if they actually bought it at 70,000, then they only spent 350 million of the billion on the Bitcoin. And then the money's gone up by, let's call it 50% and be generous. So they've made a couple hundred million, but you thought they were going to make $1 billion. What's that called? That's called the news. And what do you do with that? You sell it. What happened here on GameStop then? Shock horror. The rumor kicked in, and you'll see that this chart looks surprisingly similar to kind of how Bitcoin went. And then it went up to highs. They said that they bought it. The news came out. It was disappointing news, which is rare for Ryan Cohen. And the prices then dropped back down. Technically, you could have seen this coming if you'd looked at the GameStop thread in Discord yesterday, for example, or whatever. Whenever we posted about this red line here, which is of course the anchored VWAP. When the prices are above this, they're at a premium. When they're below it, they're at a discount. Question then for people who are looking at the chat with how does this work? One of the questions that came into the Discord was whether or not we're going to see a movement away from the basket that GameStop has been in terms of this meme stock thing, and perhaps towards a basket like MicroStrategy, MSTR ticker, Will it follow that chart more? And well, it's got this amazing business of buying Bitcoin off the back of share issues. Great, fantastic business, and we all love it. And it's attached to this other business, which is not making any money. They're probably going to start to be valued on the thing that's that, especially if they put any more money into it, because the entire business was worth like less than a billion. So if they bought like $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, as is the plan, they'll be more tied towards Bitcoin. Easy answer. So yeah, and that's cool because we're happy enough for the company to acknowledge that there's an asymmetric risk opportunity here, which is cool, a big bonus. When when the other side of it, selling stuff at retail isn't making billions of dollars right now. Maybe it will in the future. Maybe they'll be able to take some of the gains from Bitcoin and make billions of dollars as a sort of add-on business idea to the Bitcoin one. So the price went up towards the highs of that red line and back down again. Okay, this is so far is actually not that shocking. We have still maintained up above previous kind of highs, part of the lower highs on the way down, the higher highs on the way up. Maintained up there, but not done a great job of staying up above the previous major high. The question in the kind of back of the analysis head is, do we need to go all the way back down towards these lows again? That becomes a threat, I think, if prices actually move below $27. Well, it's above $27, it's still pretty positive. Yeah, it's been a huge pullback. You can just measure this out and you can see on a logarithmic basis that it has gone all the way back down to the 236, but has it broken it? Not quite yet. It's just done exactly what you would expect on a technical analysis basis. Just line this up properly. And as you can see here, it's just back down testing the 236. Okay, it could go to the 382, fill in that fair value gap, still remain above its prior higher high as part of the upward trend just here. So, that would all be okay. A lot of volatility right now. Looking to get some more clarity on what their assets are actually worth. Might not find out till the earnings report comes out. And as I explained already, we may never ever know. And the closest we'll ever get to knowing is what I explained in the first half of this video. Well worth a like if you're a GameStop or crypto person. There's your technical analysis on GameStop, right? The key notes for you here is that we're just below the 236, but that's okay. I'm still feeling okay on this. What's above $27, $28. I would actually prefer it go no lower than 29. I'd probably manage my risk on that fairly tightly if it did go below 29, but this is okay so far. If it drops down below there, $27, you might be looking towards 22 to go this whole range again. Kind of would be a disappointing outcome for how things have gone so far. So we really are looking for it to maintain momentum, which is obviously completely gone on its face, but this is classic example of overbought on the RSI. It was extended, it went above the anchored VWAP. There's plenty of reasons for it to have a healthy organic pullback. So my chat subtext is, how healthy is the pullback? Is it organic and useful, or is it a death knell? This is the LPSN chart. We're looking at it on the 24-hour time as well. The thing that I find most interesting when I look at my own chart here is, of course, this line that was the downward trend, which is then operated as support here as we broke out of it. Is this overall going to be a bottoming formation? We've chatted about this in terms of things like harmonics and stuff on the show recently. Jimmy's got great videos out about this. The stuff that I'm still looking towards in terms of the next big target and possible pivot point will come in at around about $1.11. That's pretty much the 50% pullback area from the recent highs to the lows. So it's something that really will be paying keen attention to. The 236, if you want to flip the Fibonacci analysis I was doing on GameStop there, which is providing us resistance right now, comes in at around about 81 cents. Me seeing the price of LPSN trading during the day live open markets at 82 cents makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside, but I'll actually get like kind of hungry bullish at above the 90s because this area potentially still represents just another lower high. What we have recently though is this coming in as a potential higher low as part of a potential upward trend. If I could just get the RSI to show up here, hidden bearishness came in above at the prior lower high. People will have noticed that. The thing which is most likely to happen with people who are somewhat inexperienced in technical analysis and want to dive in, eat that up, share it with people, tell everybody what's so great, and they've learned about analysis and they've learned about divergence and everything else, is they're looking here and they're saying this hidden bearish divergence should see us having a pullback down here and it should push lower, yada yada. Well, actually, if we find that this area is support at the low 60s where we had the retest of the downward sloping trend line, that would be failed hidden bearish divergence, and it would be really begin to be very bullish. Begin to be very bullish there at that point already. We can look at this high here and the next high, and we could try and say, is this some form of like bearish divergence? But for that to be the case, this would need to have been an uptrend. But if we just mark it out, there's your lower low, there's your lower high, lower low, lower high, and we're still in the zone yet where we don't know if this is coming for another lower low. This cannot be any sort of just regular bearish divergence as part of an upward trend, because we're not in an upward trend yet on that aspect. Instead, what we're in is in a zone where there was a hidden bearish divergence which may fail. So seeing prices sustain themselves above 61 is great for the positive case, because as soon as you take out the area of about 90 where I said I start to get really bullish, then you're also proving that hidden bearish divergence was a failure. You're taking it out, and retrospectively what you're left with is a low, a high, a higher low, and you'd be going to look on to see if you can make a higher high on the RSI as well as part of that trend, which would be pushing up towards there. So the magnitude that you would need on this move would need to be fairly good, fairly strong, right? If it was to just go up in a sort of single move, it would have to be fairly good, fairly strong, and what's that take you to? It takes you to what I was saying when I said that the thing that I find most interesting on this chart, of course, is my prior areas of price, because the next target is 111, and of course my downward sloping line here, because this area where it might have found support at might be showing us that this area is where we get the low on. That would then rule out hidden bearish divergence as a thing, and a failure of a signal is a signal in itself, which would be bullish and give you that target. And that's your circle of the analysis on LPSN. From me today, the man, the myth, the legend, Rocky Outcrop, your spirit guide in the world of finance, technical analysis. If you haven't hit the like button yet, well, then there is no negotiating with you. You're some sort of terrorist. And I do invite you to join my Discord, because it's great. Everybody in there is like pigs in blankets. They're dead happy. And I'll be seeing you all again in the next show, which will be freaking awesome, by the way.